Hi folks, so what we're going to do in this video is a question here based on the topic of axonometric projection. Okay, this is often a topic that's kind of covered after the topic of orthographic projection, and you can see in the question here what we're given is the elevation and plan of an object, and we have to get the true isometric view of the object. So it says here, draw a true isometric of the given solid, figure 5.45. This comes actually, I forgot to say, from the Graphics and Design and Communications textbook, so Leave Insert DCG book. Okay. Part 1, we have to set up the axonometric plane and draw the plan view. Then part 2, we have to draw the elevation. Part 3, we're going to divide it up, okay, and get the curves. So that's what we're going to start with. So in the axonometric, what we're going to do is we're going to start with a vertical axis that's called the Y. We're going to have the x-axis here, which is for our lengths, and the z-axis here. Okay, and these lines are going down at 30 degrees. So how do we set that up on our page? So here's our page set up. What I usually do is I pick a point, roughly if that's the middle of the page. I'm going to go a little bit higher for this one, okay, just so it fits on my page today. So I'm going to start roughly about there. I'm going to start there, and I'm going to do a vertical line there from that point. Okay, from there then I'm going to do an axis off to the left, which is going to be my x-axis, and I'm going to do an axis off to the right from the same point, which is going to be my z-axis. Okay, a little bit of labels for today. This is my y-axis, which is associated with my heights. This is my x-axis, which is associated with my lengths. Just put a little L in there. And this is my z-axis, which is always associated with my widths or my depths. Okay, however you want to describe it. Now, what we're going to do, that is our axis. Okay, we're going to set up now our axonometric plane. Okay, and in the isometric version, this is always going to be an equilateral triangle. So horizontal line, anywhere at all, it doesn't really matter, you could do it down here. I'm just going to do it here. Don't bring it in too close, because you want a decent sized equilateral triangle. So where it hits the x-axis, I'm going to go up at 60 degrees then, to hit the y-axis, and then we should be able to draw in our equilateral triangle. And that's after working out perfect. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to draw in the plan view of the object using dimensions here. So where this hits the x-axis, I'm going to go vertically down, and where it hits the z-axis, vertically down. Okay, so where it hits the two of those, I'm going to go vertically down and down. Okay, now step here. Okay, little shortcut you can take in the plan view. I'm going to start a horizontal line a little bit up from the edge of my page. So if I just move there, you can see the bottom of my page down here. Okay, I'm going to come a little bit up from the bottom, so that I hopefully fit this all onto one page. I'll come up to about here. I'm going to do a horizontal line there. Now, where it hits the x-axis, I went vertically down, and the z-axis vertically down, and then this line here can be chosen at any height. Okay, I can take it anywhere on the page. I can bring it further down or further up. The problem is, if you go further up, you run the chance of running it into the 3D object. Now from here, at this point right here, we're going to go at 45 degrees. This is a quick shortcut method we can do for the plan view in the isometric version, and I'm going to do 45 degrees like that from these 2 points. Okay, there is my x-axis and my z-axis. Now, if I was just to use colours for demonstration today, let's say my x-axis is in red. So I'll pop it in red there. Well then, this is the plan view of the x-axis. Okay, because technically what I'm drawing here is the horizontal plane. So there's my x-axis in red as well. Okay, now my z-axis, I'm going to pop that in blue. So if that's blue, well then this would also be blue. Okay, and now the y-axis, last colour, I'm going to go with the yellow. Excuse me. So y-axis here, I'm going to go with the yellow. Vertical line like that. Now what you have to understand is my y-axis down here, I'm actually only seeing it as a point view. So I'm seeing the vertical line here in the plan view down here as a point view. Okay, so if I was to put in my labels again, well this will be my x-axis, which is where my lengths go. This one here is my z-axis, which is my widths or depths go, and this is my y-axis. Okay, and it's like we're looking directly down on top of it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start applying the dimensions to the drawing. So in my plan view, if we look at the sheet here, I have to redraw this guy in, and you can see they've kind of given us the orientation of it here. So the overall length of it is 100, and the overall width of it is 20 plus 30, 50. Okay, and then we've got two arcs here at the sides, which are radiuses of 30. And then what is the length of this little bit here? So we kind of have to go up to the elevation to figure that out. So you can see in the elevation, we have a distance from here to the center, which is 50 millimeters. Therefore, the distance that's actually left over here is also 50, because the overall length is 100. So that distance that would be left over there, from there to there, if I was to bring that up, would be also 50. And then this bit here, the arc, it says R for radius. Well, what is the radius? Well, if we look over here to the right, the radius is obviously 35. Therefore, that distance from there to there is 35, which means that gap there is 15. Therefore, this gap here is 15. So a little bit of kind of just figuring out in that. So we're going to apply those dimensions down here now. So in my plan view, this is going to be where I'm drawing my plan. Okay, this is the horizontal plane. All my lengths are going out along this one. So I have a length of 100. Hopefully it just fits on my page. Quite hard to fit an A3 page, so I'm going to measure down 100. And while I'm at it, I'm going to measure up 50 and an additional 35, which gets me, so there's my 50, 35. So there's my lengths. Now I'm going to put my widths in along the x-axis, or sorry, not the x, the z-axis. So I have two widths. I have a 20 and a 30. So from here, 20 this way, plus the 30. Okay, now all I'm going to do is 45 degrees from both of these. So 45 degrees down this way, 45 degrees, and then the same with these guys. This one here. Don't need the one in the middle just yet. I'll get onto that later on. And there we go. Okay, just about fitting on my page. And now I'm going to heavy in certain parts of that. So I'm going to heavy in this bit here, this bit, that bit as far as there, this bit, and this. Now we have to get in our arcs. And the arcs, if we go back to our sheet, the arcs are here, and they have a radius of 30. So if you see the arcs here, from the edge here, I'm going to measure in 30, find my center, do my radius 30, and the same here, radius of 30, so measuring in 30. So, back out, so you can see this, from this point right down here, I'm going to measure up 30, and that's my center there, and the same from here, from 10 back as far as the 7, just using a little bit of maths there to help me out, and that's my 30. Now I'm going to go 45 degrees this way, and 45 degrees this way. Now, that's my center for my arcs. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw those arcs in, center point here, pencil out as far as here. Let's see how they turn out. We'll look at my accuracy. Perfect. So there's my arc on that side, and the exact same with this one. Always testing first. Just going to check. Yep. Perfect. There's my two arcs. And now just going to switch out my compass so that I can use my marker to heavy it in. Quick change here. Right, so let's heavy that in now. Just makes it look better on the screen. Apologies for the delay. So, rotating this guy. So there's that side, and likewise with this one. And there we go. Okay, and just to finish off the plan, there is our plan view completed. Okay, so now that we've got the plan completed, we're going to move on up as far as the elevation. Okay, so the elevation is going to be up here between our x and our y axis. So to do that, I'm going to move myself around here. What I want to do is I'm going to project out my lines parallel with the z axis. So likewise, when we set up for our plan view down here, where the axonometric plane cut the x-axis and the z-axis, I went down. Now where the axonometric plane for the elevation view, where it cuts the x-axis and the y-axis, I'm going to project up at 30 degrees. Okay, so out here, parallel to the z-axis, which is at 30 degrees, I'm going to go 30 degrees out. From this point here, 30 degrees out. Now, what I'm going to do is, I have to set up a line parallel to this here. That's at 60 degrees, so really easy, just going to go 60 degrees like that. Now what I need to do is I need to set up a semicircle. Okay, so in setting up the semicircle, you can either bisect this line, but if we also just project out the z-axis until it goes out in line with it, you extend that out, okay, you can actually find the middle there, just in line with the z-axis. Okay, you can see there I've done it very lightly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that center point to draw in a semicircle. Now in this method here, we didn't do it down here because there is a shortcut where you can just use the 45 degree set square, but up here we do have to put in the semicircle. I'll draw this in and just check on my accuracy there. There we go. So there we go. Okay, not bad. Now what I'm going to do to get my 90 degree axis, where the z-axis comes out, where the z-axis comes out and it hits the semicircle, that's going to help us draw in our 90 degree axis. So from here over to here, that's going to be my axis going in this direction, and likewise my axis going in that direction. Once again, we're going to put in the colours associated with them. This time, the line going upwards is our yellow axis. I'm drawing the yellow axis, which is our y-axis associated with our heights. And the line going out this way is our red axis, or x-axis, associated with our lengths. Pop that in there now as well. So in the elevation, we're associating with lengths and heights. Okay, so there is our setup. Once again, I'm just going to pop in the bit of information associated with those. I can find my pen here. So this is my y, which is associated with heights, and this is my x, which is associated with my lengths. So now I'm going to redraw the elevation view. So here's our elevation, we have to redraw that in. So we have an overall length of 100, okay? So this is essentially a rectangle that's 100 long and 25 high, and then we'll focus on the top portion. So, measuring out along our length line here, measuring out 100 millimeters. So from here out to here. So there's my 100. I'm going to put in the 50 while I have it as well, because I know I need that later on. And I'm going to mark up a height of, I think it's 25. There's there. Okay, a little bit of sliding set squares here now. So I've measured 50 and 100 and up 25. So parallel to the x-axis. And there is other ways you can do this, but I'm just going to do the sliding set squares method. So parallel like this. Okay. And then also parallel to the y-axis. Hopefully I have to slightly move my visualizer here, apologies. So the reason I just brought that one is so I can have the center point. And then out here, there we go. Now, let's heavy in proportions. Bring this back down. Let's start heavying in what's relevant. So let's heavy in the rectangle. So there's our rectangle heavied in. Now at the very top, using the center point here, we have a radius of 35 to do, going around like that, and then this line is connected like a tangent. Okay, so getting my compass here, I'm going to set 35 on my compass. I'll draw it in first of all with my pencil compass, and then I'll head it in with the marker. So from here, measure now 35 from the center point. There's my 35. Get my compass, position it on the center. Pencil out to here. So there's my there. And then just creating a tangent like that. Now we're just going to heavy all that information in. So once again, get my compass, trying to find the point of contact. It's heavy in the arc. So there's my arc heavied in. And now we'll just heavy in the tangent. So now that we've heavied in the tangents, we now have our elevation and our plan drawn in. Okay, so just tidy up there. Now we're getting on to it. We've done the hard work. Now it's just actually making the 3D object. So if I just bring this out into a SolidWorks video here, or not a video, sorry, a model, this is what our model is in SolidWorks. Now before we actually start it, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take it in stages. If we take the little block here, okay, there's our objects, there's the plan, there's the elevation. I'm going to treat it, and I'm going to treat it like a piece of Lego, like there's two pieces. There's the base piece and then there's the piece that sits on top. Okay, now the base piece we know has curves at the front of it. But before those curves were put on, if you treat it, it was probably, before the curves were put on, like this, it was actually a simple block. And then we're going to add in the curves. Okay, and after we get that part done, we'll add on the top part, which is that bit. Okay, so we're going to start off by making the simple block there. So, to start off with the little block, we want to identify the points on the block. Okay, so in the elevation, it's these 4 points: 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in the plan, there's 4 points as well: 1, 2, 3, and there's one down here, 4, just off the screen. Okay, it's actually just about gone onto my table there, as you can see it. Okay, now as I said, we'll put in the curves after. So what we're going to do now, we're going to project all those points up. So from the plan view, they go vertically up. So the Y one will go up in line with the Y axis. This one here, which I know I don't need, but I'm just going to help me make it. It's going to go up like that. The one down here, the right front's just off my page, but it'll do. And then this one down here. Okay, so they've all projected up. Now those points are going to come from the elevation as well. So there's 2 points on the ground as we look at an elevation, the front and the back. Right, there we go, perfect. And then at the top, so as far as this one, perfect. Now, where's my 4 points if I was to identify them? Well, here's the back edge, right there and there, and then the other ones come from here to here. Now, if I wanted to find the other ones on it, all I would have to do is go at 30 degrees in this direction. It's really easy. There's one, and the other one should probably hit somewhere right about here. Perfect. Okay, you can start to see the block kind of coming into shape there. There's the other 2 points, and it'll be the same here. So I would go up as far as the Y axis, and then from there it'll go down. And there's our little rectangular box. There's one face, there's another face, and there's the top. Okay, so in regards to what I can actually heavy in, okay, I can heavy in certain portions of it that are straight before it curves. So if we come down here to the plan, I can see that this part of it here is straight. So if I was to bring this bit up from that point there before it starts to curve, there, then it curves around to here. At that point there, it goes straight from here up to here in a straight line. And then from here it curves around until it actually goes around to the back over here, which is actually in line with it again. There. Okay, so there's certain elements of it now that I can actually heavy in that are straight. Okay, this edge right here. This edge right here. Okay, do the same going this way. This edge there. And this edge there. I'll get that edge heavied in. Okay. Now, there is an edge here, but I don't know can I see it just yet. Now, what we have to do is we have to get the curved portion here, okay, at the front. As I said, in SolidWorks, it's like we're doing the fillet part of it, those 2 curved bits. Now, what we're going to use here is actually vertical cuts. So, I'm going to put this one on. It's like we're going to take slices through the object and find an edge or 2 points there. Then we'll take another slice. We'll find another 2 points on the curve until eventually we get to the straight part, and then we'll repeat the process down at the very end. Okay, so it's like we're taking vertical cuts through the section of it. Okay, so how do we do that? In our plan view is where I'm going to put them in first. So in the plan, I'm going to take vertical cuts, okay, going in 10mm increments. The reason I'm using 10s is because these lines here, okay, the gap for the curve or the radius is 30. So 30 times 3 10s works up to 30. So from the 30, okay, you can see from the center point, I'm going to simply just measure in increments of 10mm. So from the center, I'm going to go 10 and 10. I'm going to do the exact same up here as well. So 10 and 10. Okay, so those measurements that I've done now, I need to find points on the curve. So using my 45-degree set square, I'm going to do a cut like this and a cut like this. I'm going to do the same with the ones up here, a cut and a cut. Okay, now that I've done the same ones there, I'm going to label them. Okay, I'm going to index them. So I'm going to call this point here number 1, call this point here number 2, number 3, number 4, continue on, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so I have 8 points that I want to find. Right, now that I've found them on my plan, I have to find 1 to 8 up here in my elevation. Now remember, this is the left hand side of my object in plan, therefore this is the left hand side of my object in elevation, over here is the right. So number 1 is on the left, so obviously if I was just to go with the ground lines, okay, that there would be number 1. How do I find number 2? Well, number 2 is 10 millimeters over, so I can just repeat the process up here. So I can go 10, there's 2, there's 3, and there's 4. Okay, if I want to find 5, 6, 7, and 8, it's just measuring back from the right 10 millimeters each time. So put in my 10 millimeter increments. Okay, like that. And let's put our labels on them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now what you have to understand is there's a curve on the bottom, but there's also a curve on the top edge up here as well. Now I'm just going to focus on the bottom, and then I'm going to show you a shortcut of how you can get the top edge as well. Okay, and it'll save you hopefully a little bit of time. So now that I have all my points in the plan and the elevation, I can do the normal method here where we're going to project it down at 30 degrees and project it up vertical as well. So, really handy one here I've already found. I've already found point 1. So if you see, 1 has already been projected down and 1 has been projected up. So right there is point 1. And that's the top of point 1 as well. Okay, now if I want to find point number 4, it's already come down. Well, actually, sorry, well, this one has come up, it's there, but I haven't projected down from here, but I actually do have it. Just to show you, it should line up if depending on my accuracy. We'll see what my accuracy is like here now. Yep, so 4 comes down, you can see it's hitting right on it there. So I'm quite happy with that. Now what I want to do is I want to find 3 and 2. So how do I find them? Well, I need to project 2 up. 2 is going to be up somewhere along that line. And I'm going to project 3 up as well while I'm at it. And it's also going to be somewhere up along that line. Now I have to project them down at 30 degrees. So 2 will come down. And it's actually going to hit right there. Okay, and do the same with 3. 3 comes down. And it's hitting literally just inside it right there. Okay, so there's my curve. It's going to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Now there's quite a large gap between 1 and 2, but that's fine. If you wanted, you could put another little increment of 5 millimeters inside here. Okay, so now that I've got it done, I can freehand sketch in my curve. So I'll go from 4 to 3 to 2. Try and make it flow nice and smoothly to 1. Now that I've got my curve, sketch it in as neatly as we possibly can. Okay, so there's my curve on the bottom face. Now to find the curve on the top face, okay, what you could do is you could do the measurements here. You could obviously bring 2 up, 3 up, 4 up, and then project the ones from the top surface down. But what we can also do then is, little shortcut, you could take the measurement from the sheet. So I'm just going to zoom in here. I could take the distance from 1 on the ground up to 1 at the top. I could take that distance on my compass, and I could then position it on number 2 and find a new position of 2. I could do the same thing then with number 3, and hopefully number 4 is the same. Yeah, quite happy with that. So there we go. Just limits the amount of work that we have to do, because the distances should all be the same. And we just take our time, nice and smooth, trying to make sure that the curve looks the same on the top as it does on the bottom. Switch out my pen here. There's my point. There's my point. Okay, so there is our curve at the front. Now what we have to do is we have to repeat the process then, and we're going to find the other points on the curve. Okay, so sorry, zoom out rather than in. Now what I want to find is 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm going to repeat the process. So we've already found point number 5. And technically we've already found point number 8, it's here. So it's going to go 5, 6, 7, 8, just like that. Put 8 in there like that. Now I want to find 6, so 6 will come up. And I want to find 7, right on the outside, and that will come up as well. Okay, so to find them exactly, well 5 is already down there, found that, that's fine. Let's get 6, so 6 is literally just there. Okay, there's 6, and now I want to find 7. And 7 is just on the outside of it. Okay, so there's 6, there's 7, and I went around to 8. So what I'm going to do now is put in my curve, 5 to 6 to 7, and at this point here, it's a little bit kind of eyeballing it. There we go. There's the curve on the bottom. Now I want to find the one on the top. I can use the same height that I had used over here. I can use the same height and mark it. So from 6, let's go up. From 7, let's go up. From 8, it's at the same height already. So let's get the curve on the top now that we have it. Okay, in the same process, let's make it flow smooth as we can. And now that we have that done, I'm going to heavy that in as best I can. Switching between my markers here now. Okay, same concept here. Now at the outside, what you have to do when the curve goes around, we actually need to connect it kind of a line like that. And we're not going to see the curve as it goes in. And I just heavy in this part down here. Okay, and there we have it. That there is kind of our platform done so far with the curve. Okay, now we have to repeat the process here on the upper part as well. Okay, for this bit up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use those cuts again. Alright, you could do cuts, you could do 30, 60 degrees, whatever way you want. As long as you, whatever measurements you take up here, you can apply them down here. Now I'm actually going to do it down here in the plan first, and then I'll bring them up. So if you remember, we had a 50mm mark right in the middle. So I'm going to go from there, I'm going to do a line like this. Okay, and what I'm going to do from that line there then is, I'm going to connect this, and I'm going to measure out in increments of 10 again. So you'll see here from here, because I've already got the 2 and the 3 on it, there's the 1. So 10, 20, 30, and we should have 5 left over. Okay, I'm going to go backwards, and I'm going to do, you can see that there as well. So watch this, from the middle I went 10, 20, 30, 35, and from here, from the middle again, 10, 20, and a lot of these are already here, so that's actually quite helpful. This time, so I don't get confused, I'm going to use numbers, or sorry, not numbers, letters. So at this point here, I'm going to say A. Now A is going to connect up to here. You can see it's a tangent at the top. So at some point here, roughly around there, we need to find that tangent point. The easiest way to actually find the point of contact, to know where the straight line ends, is literally this. If you put your line, your 45-degree set square on the tangent line, get your other set square, rotate the set square to go perpendicular to the tangent and go through the center. At that point right there, that is where our tangent actually ends. Just to have that in mind. Okay? So what I'm going to do is, as I said, we're going to use letters. So I've got A, B, C, D, and say E, F, G, H, I, and J. Now, may not need to find all of these because A to probably D are pretty much, I wouldn't say fully irrelevant, but they're, how do I put it, a lot of these, A to C anyway, might not be used because we've already found A anyway. Okay, now, how can I find this guy here, okay, that point of contact down here? Well, what I can do, okay, parallel to the y-axis, okay, parallel to the y-axis, you could do this. Bring this down a little bit further. So parallel to the y-axis, using sliding set squares, I could slide this along until it goes and hits the point of contact, and I could bring this down. And you can see that distance from 1 to between the 2 and, or the 3 and the 4. I could take that distance on my compass. It's just transferring distances. I can take that distance on my compass, and I could mark it from where obviously 1 was, And you can see there it's between C and D. And that point right down here is like my point of contact. Just going to keep that. That's my straight line, and then it starts the curve. Just to keep that in mind. Okay, so now that we've found all our points, let's start building the object. Okay, so from 1 to there, that's the first bit I'm actually going to find. Okay, I shouldn't say 1, I should say A. And this is the position of A right here. So that point right there, even though it was 1, it's also A. Okay? So now what I find is this point of contact. Okay, it's in between C and D. So let's bring it up. It's up there. Okay, it's up there somewhere. How do I find it up here? Let's bring it down at 30 degrees. Okay, so let's find it. It came down along that line there, and it came up along this line. Need to be careful here to make sure I have the right point. Yep, there we go. So that bit there is actually meeting in a straight line. Okay, so that's that bit there meeting in a straight line. Okay, now this is going to start going out here because there's going to be an edge going out there as well. Just to explain where that's coming from, it's like now we're starting to build. See that straight line there? If I go into the line diagram, it's like we've got that line straight and I've started putting in that line. I need to start building the curve now. Okay, so to start building the curve, the next point I want to find, apologies there, next point I want to find is D. I'm going to have to find them all up here as well. Okay, so I'm going to bring up D just to have it up there. Okay, D is up along that line. I now need to find the points on the curve. We've got A, which was out here. This one here, which is between C and D, and now we need to find D. So if we go back here to our drawing, if you remember we had all our measurements here. So from C, I just need to look in the middle now, from F to E to D. So F was in the middle, if we think of it here. Now we need to measure 20 back. So there's 10 and 20. So from the middle, I measure 10 and 20. And from the middle, I'm also going to measure out the opposite way. 10, 20, 30. Now, once again, need to find the points on the curve up here, parallel to the y-axis. So that'll go up. Up. Let's move my visualizer here slightly. Up. Up. And up. Okay. So that's how I find my points. It's like we're after taking vertical sections through it. So I want to find D. This is point D. E, F, G, H, I, and J. And there's all my points. Okay. I've located them all. So now we're going to put in points. So D comes down. D is going to be down there. And we'll locate it one at a time. So follow D up. That's where it can get a little bit confusing. Mine was a bit off. Making sure, yeah. So there's D. Okay. Continue the process now. So E comes down. E will go up. And there's E. Yep, just take your time. This is where people can make a mistake quite easily. F is going to come down. F is going to come up. G is going to come down. G is going to come up. Already up there it seems. Okay, H comes down, and luckily enough H and I seem to be on the same line. Slight bit of discrepancy. So there's H, and I is going to come up now. So I has come up. See, a lot of the lines maybe seem to overlap. Let's bring different I down, it's slightly off it. So as I comes up and down, yeah, there's I. Okay, and the last one we need to find then is J. What's helpful about J is actually on this line here going out. And there we go. That point right there is J. Okay, so how do I do it now? Well, now I can sketch in my curve. D, D. Now these questions are quite hard to be accurate on. If you're a little bit out, it can affect the look of the question. I down to J. There we have it. So there's that. Now I can decide, I can actually see this bit here at the back now, so I can heavy that in. Wasn't sure about that. Heavy in this little bit. Tiny bit there, I think I can see. Now what we're going to do is we're going to repeat the process for the back edges. But once again, we're going to use a shortcut. So I can take the distance, I'm going to zoom in here now so we can see it a bit better. I can take the distance from here to the back, like that. I can take that distance on my compass and do it from every one of these points. So my tangent point was here, then on to D. Just make sure you use the same lines. E, F, G, H. And at that point there, it seems like I'm not going to see it anymore. So from here, let's bring this down. There we go. And we'll sketch in the curve. Quite a lot of work in that now. Okay, so there's my curve. And that's the curve, and at the very end then we would just connect that down there in a straight line. Okay, so zooming out there guys. That there is the question completed, and that is how you break up curves, okay, on a structure, okay. We're going to have to either use 360 degrees to find points, and whatever points you find in the plan, you will then have to also find them in this view to bring them back up together, okay. So that's the question done guys. I hope you find that helpful. Okay.